All right, let's talk about one of the most common things you'll see on the ACT English section, the comma. I know, it can feel like there are a million different comma rules. But what if I told you that you really only need to know a couple to get almost every question right? That's what we're going to do today.
Okay, let's dive into rule number 1, our first heavy hitter. This one is all about the right way to connect two complete sentences. This concept shows up constantly, so if you nail this one down, you're already way ahead of the game.
First things first, you've absolutely got to know your fanboys. Fanboys is just an easy way to remember these 7 little words: for, and, nor, but, or, yet, and so. These are the only words that can properly connect two complete sentences with just a comma. You have to memorize them. No way around it.
And here is the magic formula. It's super specific, like a recipe. You need a complete sentence on one side, then a comma, immediately followed by one of those fanboys, and then another complete sentence on the other side. You need all 3 pieces. A comma by itself won't work, a fanboy by itself won't work. It has to be the comma, fanboy, comma. And trust me, the ACT loves to trick you with this. Take a look at that top sentence. We have 2 complete ideas, but they're joined only by the comma. That's a super common error called a comma splice, and it is always wrong on the ACT. To fix it, you just follow the formula. You add the fanboy and right after the comma, and boom, it's perfect.
Now here's another trap. Your brain sees the word but, which is a fanboy, and you might think, okay, I definitely need a comma. But hold on. Always check the formula. I enjoy my English class is a complete sentence, sure. But what about the part after but? Have to work much harder in math. Is that a complete sentence? Nope. It's missing a subject. Who has to work harder? Since we don't have 2 complete sentences, we don't use a comma.
All right, on to the second powerhouse rule. This one takes care of pretty much all the other comma questions. It's all about using commas to fence off extra non-essential information in a sentence. Just think of commas as a way to set aside bonus details that aren't crucial to the main point.
So how can you tell if a piece of information is excess? Well, there's a simple and amazing test for this. Just mentally cross out the phrase in question, then read the sentence without it. Does it still make perfect grammatical sense? If it does, then the part you crossed out is non-essential, and it needs to be separated with commas.
This excess info can show up pretty much anywhere. Sometimes it's an introductory phrase at the beginning, like, when I was little. The main sentence is, I wanted to take a trip to the moon. See how that works on its own? So the intro gets a comma. And other times, the extra detail is tacked on to the end, like in the second example. And very, very often, you'll see this extra info dropped right in the middle of a sentence, almost like an interruption. Here, the main point is that Miss Rosie makes great cookies. The fact that she was my childhood neighbor is just some extra nice-to-know detail.
And this is where our little test works perfectly. If we just lift out that middle phrase, my childhood neighbor, what are we left with? Ms. Rosie makes the best oatmeal cookies. It's a perfectly complete sentence. That proves the middle part is just excess info. And because it's stuck in the middle, you need to use 2 commas, one before it and one after it, to wall it off.
Okay, so we've totally got the big 95% covered. But if you're really aiming for that top score, let's just quickly clean up the last few percentage points with 2 other rules that pop up occasionally. Think of these as the icing on the cake.
First up is the one you almost certainly learned in school, using commas to separate items in a list. You know, like in the example, we have exhibits, comma, staff, comma, and architecture. Now, here's the really important part for the ACT. You must use that comma before the and in a list of 3 or more things. It's called the Oxford comma, and for the ACT, it's not optional. You have to have it.
And for our very last rule, let's talk about separating adjectives. Describing words. Sometimes when you have 2 adjectives side by side describing the same noun, you need a comma, and sometimes you don't. So how do you know? There's a trick for that too. It's called the rearrange test, and it's super easy. All you do is try to switch the order of the 2 adjectives. If the sentence still sounds totally normal and makes sense, then you need a comma between them. If flipping them sounds really weird, then you don't use a comma.
Let's try it. Look at a dark gray suit. Can you say, a gray, dark suit? No way, that sounds awful. So, no comma needed. Now look at the heavy, awkward box. Can you say, the awkward, heavy box? Yeah, that sounds perfectly fine. Since you can rearrange them, you need a comma. See? Super simple test.
Okay, we've gone through a lot, so now let's boil it all down to the absolute essentials. This is your mental cheat sheet, this simple logic you can carry with you right into the test.
When it comes down to it, it's really just a simple decision. When you see a comma question, the first thing you should ask yourself is this: am I looking at two complete sentences being joined together? If the answer is yes, then you must use the comma plus fanboy formula. If the answer is no, if you only have one complete sentence, then you're probably just dealing with excess information, and you just need a comma by itself to separate it. That's the core logic for 95% of the questions.
And that's it. That's the system. It's not about being a grammar expert on 100 different rules. It's about recognizing the patterns and mastering the two big ones that the ACT tests over and over again. Now you have the tools. So, are you ready to go get those points?